So today's practice is a Hatha yoga practice. It is a well-rounded practice, but it is particularly good for the lower back, the hips, and the hamstrings. Some prompts that will be helpful for today's practice include a block or two if you have them. If you don't have them, a couple rolls of toilet paper will work, or even a couple stacks of books. You can also practice without them, but if you've got blocks or toilet paper rolls or books, you're welcome to use those. They'll be helpful. And then if you have a strap of some sort, a yoga strap works great, but a strap of a bathrobe or even a towel, anything like that will work as well. And again, you can practice without the props, but they are helpful if you have them. And at the beginning here, we're going to want our blocks to be somewhat close by. We'll use the strap towards the end. You can set it off to the side, but if you want to put your blocks near your mat, then you'll have them accessible for you. So we will go ahead, it's 5:30 on the dot, so we will go ahead and get started with tonight's practice in a comfortable seated position. So a comfortable seated position is one in which you can elongate your spine. So we're going to bring the chin in towards the neck, lengthening the crown of the head. We're not going to be rounding in your back. So if you're rounding, you might try a different position, or you might try sitting on top of a pillow or a folded blanket. You can try sitting on your knees, or even sitting on a chair would be just fine. We'll go ahead and find a comfortable seated position, and I'll invite you, if you'd like, to go ahead and close your eyes. But you're always welcome to keep your eyes open. And we're going to go ahead and begin to draw awareness to the breath. So when I say draw awareness to the breath, I just want you to notice your breath. Notice when you breathe in, and notice when you breathe out. Even though we say to try not to modify the breath and just let it be natural, that could be difficult to do when you're paying attention to it. But as much as you can, try to let the breath flow naturally for a moment and just watch it. Maybe label your inhale as inhale, and your exhale as an exhale. So anytime we say bring awareness to your breath, it just means to notice it. Notice your inhale and notice your exhale. And we'll begin to restrict the breath to your nose. Now, if you're congested or that doesn't feel all right, you're certainly welcome to breathe through your mouth. But if it feels okay, try to restrict your breath to your nose. Inhaling in through your nose and exhaling out through your nose. And we're going to try to bring symmetry to the breath. And we're going to start with the count of 3. So we'll inhale for 3. And we'll exhale for 3. And we're gonna gradually lengthen that. If at any point it starts to be uncomfortable, shorten your breath, keeping it to 3 or 4 counts, or you can always return to a comfortable breathing rate if you start to get lightheaded or it just doesn't feel comfortable. We only want to inhale to a place that feels good and comfortable and not ever to a point that feels strained. So we'll begin to inhale and exhale to the count of 3. So inhale, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3. 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 Go to 4 now. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3. And now we'll try 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And last time we'll go to 6. We'll do a few rounds, inhaling to 6 and exhaling to 6. Go ahead and exhale and inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last one. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Very good. You can allow your eyes to gently open if they were closed. And if you can, throughout this entire practice, we're going to try to keep restricting the breath to the nose, breathing in and out through the nose, trying to keep the breath smooth and even. And I'll remind you several times throughout tonight's practice. So we're going to begin by just doing some gentle neck stretches. So with your left hand down, you can put your right hand on the top of your head and gently stretch to the right. Continuing to take those smooth, even breaths. They don't have to be quite so deep, but smooth and even is good. And only stretch as far as feels good. And we'll release and go to the other side, placing your right hand down next to you, left hand on the top of your head, and gently stretching to the left. Trying to keep your spine long as we stretch to the side. And we'll do each side one more time. We can hold a lot of tension in our neck. It's the beginning of the new year, beginning of a new week. See if we can release a little bit of that tension. And switch sides. And release. And with your hands along your sides, we're just going to gently roll the shoulders back. You can make the circles as big or as small as you like. And keep your spine long and your breath flowing. It can be easy as we continue to practice to lose that intentional breath, so we'll just try to keep returning to it. And switch and roll the other way. Good. And right hand at your side, we're going to inhale, grow tall through the left hand, and keeping that length, we're going to stretch over to the right. Just a little bit. We just want to feel a stretch through the left side while keeping as much length as possible. And on your next exhale, return to center, and then inhale to grow tall through the right side, and exhale to lean to the left, feeling a nice stretch through the right side of your body. Try to keep both of your sitting bones glued to the ground. Good. And release. We're going to inhale to bring both arms up, growing tall through the spine. And we'll exhale to put the left arm in front, the right arm straight behind us, and gently twist to the right. If you're pregnant, keep the twist nice and gentle. Both sitting bones glued to the ground. Try to grow taller with each inhale and deepen the twist a little bit with each exhale. And on your next inhale, bring your arms straight back up, growing tall. And exhale to put the right hand in front, left arm behind, gently twisting to the left. Inhaling to grow nice and tall, and exhaling, allowing ourselves to move just a little deeper into the twist. Good. And return to center. Very good. We're going to move now into cat-cow. So we're going to come onto hands and knees. If you've got a block handy, we're going to use it to do just a little bit of a variation of cat-cow. And if you don't, no worries. We're going to stick the block between our thighs and hug the inner thighs toward one another. And then place your wrists under your shoulders, shoulder width apart, and your hips directly under your knees. And we'll begin to move through cat-cow. So we'll inhale to lift the chin, draw the chest forward, drop the belly, pressing through all 10 of your fingers. And then we'll exhale to release the chin, round the shoulders, and let your belly come up towards the ceiling. Inhaling to pull the chest forward, and exhaling to lift the belly up toward the spine, releasing your shoulders. Go ahead and move through a few of these at the rate of your breathing. Inhaling for each cow pose and exhaling as you move into cat. Good. You go ahead and return to neutral spine. We're going to walk the hands several inches forward, and keeping that block between our legs, we're going to tuck the toes and lift the hips up and back into a downward facing dog with a block. So we're going to press through all 10 of our fingers. If you want to look up real quick, make sure that your pointer fingers are pointing straight forward so your hands are ever so slightly turned out. The upper inner arms are hugging in towards your ears, and you're pressing through all 10 fingers, trying to keep the weight equal between your hands and your feet. And here at the beginning, we can keep our legs bent. And anytime we come into downward facing dog, you're always welcome to keep your legs bent. Return to that smooth, even breath in and out through your nose. And if you're feeling like you've got some room in your hamstrings, you can start working those heels toward the ground as you work the legs toward straight. You'll get a little bit of a different sensation with the block, and if you don't have it, that's completely fine too. And we'll take 2 more breaths here, continuing to pull the hips up and back. Good. And then gently walk your hands back towards your feet to come into a forward fold. And you can remove the block now and just place it off to your side. And allow your head to hang.
Your legs can have as generous of a bend as you'd like here, or if you've got the room in your hamstrings and you'd like for them to be straight, that's fine too. And in this forward fold, we want the weight to be ever so slightly forward, so our toes are either just as heavy as our heels or maybe ever so slightly heavier than our heels. You don't want to topple forwards. But you're welcome to put your hands on the ground, or if you can't quite reach and you want to put your hands on the block, that would be fine too. Hands on your legs are also another option. So just gently, again, releasing a little bit more neck tension. You can shake your head yes and no. And then bending the legs, bringing the hands to the hips, we'll come up to stand. Very good. All right, so we're going to stand in the center of our mat with our feet about shoulder width apart, hip width apart, second toes pointing forward so that your feet are probably ever so slightly turned in, big toes a little bit turned in with your heels a little bit out. And we're going to lift through the lower belly, drawing the tailbone toward the ground, bringing the shoulders away from your ears. Crown of the head in yoga is pretty much always pulling toward the ceiling, wanting to keep as much length in your spine as possible. And just take a moment to notice where your weight is. Is it forwards? Is it backwards? Is it side to side? You can close your eyes as well, and that will help you get an idea of where your weight is. When our eyes are closed, our balance is a little bit more challenged, so we'll see which way we tend to lean, and see if you can stand so that your weight is equally between the front and the back of your feet. Take a couple breaths. Good. And bring your hands to your hips. Shift your weight to your left foot, and we're going to turn the right foot out as we come into tree pose. So for tree pose, you can keep your foot, this right foot, on the ground with your toes touching to help you have a little bit more support in the balance. Or if you'd like to bring your foot up to your calf, or you can bring it all the way up to your inner thigh, just avoiding placing it on your knee. So find a focal spot for your eyes and keep them glued there. Lift the lower belly. We want to wrap this right hip underneath us, so this is a nice hip opener. Try to keep both of your hips square so one isn't up or down. You're not leaning into one hip or another. That would cause me to wobble. There you go. And that's okay. And then we'll bring your hands together at your chest. If you'd like, you can always keep them on your hips. And then perhaps you want to try keeping your hands glued together and bringing them straight up overhead. If you do that, keep your shoulders moving away from your ears and down your back. If you've got a wall or a chair handy, you're also always welcome to use that for support in our balance poses. We'll do 2 more breaths here. Good. Bring your hands back to your hips. Turn the right leg in and lower. Shift the weight to the right. Turn the left foot out. Left toes can be on the ground to start. And then you can decide if you want to keep your toes here or move it to your calf or up to your inner thigh with the support of your left hand. Again, we're wrapping this left hip underneath us to get that nice hip opener. Keeping both of the hips as squared and even as possible. Finding that place to fix our gaze. And you can leave your hands on your hips. You can bring them together at your heart center. Or you can lift them, pressing together straight up overhead. And return to that smooth, even breath in and out through your nose.
See if you notice that right foot working hard to keep you balanced. Imagine pressing through the right foot, pressing down into the ground. And notice as you do that, if you don't grow just a little bit taller. Good. You can bring your hands back down, turn the knee in, and bring it back to the ground. Very good. We're going to move through a few warrior poses now. So if you've got blocks, you can place them to the back of each side of your mat at any height that you like. You can always adjust it. And then we're going to stand with our feet wide. So you want to have your feet either as wide as your hands are, long extended, or they can be a little bit more narrow, whatever is feeling okay today. And again, you want those second toes pointing forward, so a slight internal rotation of your hips. Lift the lower belly so that your tailbone isn't pointing behind you, but pointing toward the ground. And we're going to externally rotate the left hip so that the right toes are facing the right. And we'll begin to bend that right leg, coming in to warrior two. So here you want to make sure your right heel is intersecting the middle of your left arch. Your knee isn't going past your ankle, so you can adjust your stance however you need to make sure that that's in good alignment. And you want to make sure your knee is pointing the same direction as your second toe and not collapsing in at all. So that means you're hugging that right hip underneath, pulling up through the left thigh. Arms can be straight out to the side, fingertips pulling away from each other, and then turn to gaze over the right fingertips. See if you can sink maybe an inch lower, press through both heels, lift the lower belly, hips and shoulders are both open, facing forward. See if you can pull your fingertips away from each other while lowering your shoulders away from your ears. And let's do 2 more smooth, even breaths here. Good. Straighten the right leg. Bring your hands to your hips. We're going to turn that right foot in and externally rotate the left foot. Again here, make sure the left heel is in the middle of the right arch, so adjust your feet however you need. And then go ahead and begin to bend the left knee, bringing that left knee over your ankle. Hips and shoulders open, arms can be extended straight out, pulling those fingertips away from each other. Adjusting your feet, pressing through your heels, and turning to gaze over your left fingertips. Again, make sure that knee is straight in line with the second toe and not collapsing in. So imagine that your left hip is wrapping underneath you, and pull this your left hip, right thigh is pulling up to take pressure off of your knee. And as you're pulling your fingertips away from each other, the shoulders are moving away from your ears. See if you can sink an inch deeper. And we'll do 2 more breaths. Good. Straighten the left leg. Hands to your hips. You're going to turn the left knee in and the right foot back out. We're going to move into extended side angle pose, and this is where you will use the block. So we're going to come back into that same leg alignment as we did for warrior two. And you'll have the block directly behind your ankle. You can also use stack of books, or you can even have a chair behind you to have it raised up even higher, or we can put our elbow on our thigh. So arms straight out, and either dropping the right elbow to your thigh or placing it on the block behind you. Left arm comes straight up toward the ceiling at first, or you can have it on your hip. Sinking to try to get this knee into a right angle if possible. And then sweeping the arm in front of our body, bringing it up toward the ear so that we create a nice line between the left fingertips and the left heel. Then we'll go ahead and take the chest and ever so slightly rotate it up toward the ceiling. It may not turn very much, but just turn it a little bit so that it begins to move toward the ceiling. Press through that left heel and try not to have the weight be too heavy in that right arm. One more smooth, even breath and extended side angle. And then as we exhale, we'll press through the right foot to come up to stand, straightening the leg and switching to the other side. Right foot turns in, left foot turns out, bending into that warrior two leg position, bringing your other block right behind your ankle if you're going to use the block. Arms out, and then left elbow can fall to your leg, or the left hand can drop down to the block behind you. And we'll start with the right arm straight up toward the ceiling or on your hip. Good. And then allow the arm to rotate forward, coming over your ear, creating a nice long line between the right fingertips and the left heel. Press through the right heel. Take the left knee and press it into your left arm if your arm is behind your ankle. There we go. Or if your hand is on your elbow is on your thigh, just imagine pressing it towards the back. Good. And on your next exhale, press through the feet to come up. Straighten the leg and turn your feet forward. Very good. If you've got your blocks, you can put them right in front of you, especially if you have less mobility in your hamstrings, and we'll use them for our forward fold. If you know you've got more mobility in your hamstrings, you're welcome to move them off to the side. And we'll go ahead and do a wide-legged forward fold. So both toes are turned in, so the second toes are pointing forward. Hands on your hips, lift your chest. Lower belly lifts, chest lifts, shoulders down, leading with your chest. Allow yourself to begin to fold forward. Again, you can drop your hands onto blocks if you'd like, or place them onto the ground, and allow your back to round. And as we do this, our tendency is to allow our hips to move back, making our heels heavy. Instead, pull the weight forward so it's more in your toes. Again, you've got your hands down to keep you from toppling forward. Go back to that smooth, even breathing. If you've lost it, no big deal. Just return to it. And in order to create a little bit more space in our hamstrings, we're going to imagine pulling the thighs up toward the hips, engaging those thigh muscles, which allows the hamstrings to relax a little bit more, create a little bit more space to move a little bit more deeply, but don't force it. See if with each exhale you can feel yourself sinking just a little bit deeper into the stretch. And we'll hold for 2 more breaths. Good. And come back up to your fingertips. Bend your legs, bring your hands to your hips, and come up to stand. Good. We've got one more standing pose before we move to the ground. So we're going to move the heels in, toes out to create some external rotation, but keep the feet wide. And we're going to begin to bend both knees. And again, we're trying to keep the knees directly over the ankles. Tailbone pointing toward the ground, so you're lifting your hip points up to create that nice length through the spine. We're going to move into goddess pose, and here you can keep your hands on your hips, or you can inhale to bring them straight up And exhale to cactus your arms, bringing your shoulder blades together behind your back. Try to keep your toes from gripping the floor. Let your toes relax. We'll see if we can hold for 2 more breaths here. Good. Straighten the legs and bring the arms out for a breath. Again, pulling those fingertips away from you and allowing your hands to drop. We'll heel toe the feet together to come back into mountain pose. Good. And then we'll move to the front of the front of the mat. And we're going to do just a little bit of a flow to get down to the ground. So feet shoulder width apart. We're going to inhale to sweep the arms straight up overhead. Exhale to fold forward. Weight in your toes. On an inhale, we're going to lift up to a flat back, pulling the crown of the head forward to create that nice flat straight back. Your body at as close to a 90-degree angle as possible. And exhale to go back down. Then we'll step one foot and then the other into a plank. If you're pregnant or you want a modification, go ahead and drop down to your knees. We'll hold plank for just a couple of breaths here, pressing through all 10 of your fingers, lifting your lower belly, chest comes forward, thighs are pressing up, heels pulling straight behind you. Let's do one more breath. And then we'll pull the hips up and back into downward facing dog. And again, you're welcome to have bent legs here. Again, pull those upper inner arms toward your ears. Press through all 10 of your fingers. Lift your hips up and back. And move your heels toward the mat. Good. Then we'll go ahead and drop down to the knees to come into a child's pose. So knees as wide as the mat, big toes together, hinging back at the hips, allowing your chest and your forehead to come to the ground. You're welcome to put a block or a pillow underneath your forehead or your chest, or even to roll blankets underneath your knees. If this hurts your shoulders, you can relax your arms and bring them alongside your legs. And we'll hold child's pose for about 3 breaths. Very good. Walk your hands towards your knees, and we're going to come up into camel pose. And we're going to use the blocks for support if you have them. If not, I'll show you how to do it without. And we're going to bring our knees together so we can have our blocks by our ankles. So again, if you don't have blocks or you prefer this modification, you can put your hands on your lower back. Otherwise, we'll reach our hands towards the block in just a moment. So this is a back bend, and in a back bend, we always want to keep as much of the back bend in the upper back as possible. So like in the other poses, we're tilting the tailbone toward the ground to create length in the lower back. And we're lifting the chest up, chin up, and allowing our hands to fall either on the blocks, or you can keep them on your lower back. So pulling the chest up and forward, trying to lift the hips up and pointing the tailbone toward the ground as much as possible to protect that lower back. And you can stay right here, or if you'd like to move with me, I'm going to lift one hand straight up toward the sky for a few breaths. And then switch and lift the other straight up.
And bringing your hands back to your hips. You can move the blocks off to the side and make sure your strap is close. We're going to use it here in just a few minutes. And we're going to go ahead and come now into bound angle or butterfly pose. So you can sweep your feet out in front of you, bring the soles of your feet together. Your heels can be close to your sitting bones or farther away or anywhere in between. You're going to press down through both of those sitting bones. You're welcome to sit on a folded blanket or a pillow or cushion again here to create the nice long spine. You can have your hands on your ankles. You can use your hands as a support to help you keep the nice, strong, straight spine by putting your hands behind you. Whatever you need to do to create that length. Inhale, grow as tall as you can. And exhale, and moving just as much as feels good in your body, you can begin to fold forward. Again, putting your hands wherever they fall naturally. Could be out in front, could be behind you, could be on your ankles. And you're always welcome, I know I put those blocks off to the side, but in butterfly pose, you're always welcome to put those blocks under your knees if you begin to feel any sensation in your knees. We want to make sure we take good care of the knee joints. Again, see if you can find that steadiness of breath. Good. And come back up. Very good. All right, we'll move the blocks off to the side if we're using them. Swivel around, have your strap handy, lay down on your back, and have both of your legs bent. If you don't have a strap, you can hug one knee at a time into your chest. If you do have a strap, you can go ahead and place it over the sole of your foot, and we're going to extend the foot straight up. So the idea here is to have your ankle straight over your hip. So we're not pulling the foot back toward the forehead, straight up. And you can have a little bend in your knee, that's completely fine. And we're going to have the hands at about shoulder width apart, and we're going to pull straight down with the strap. This is a good pose for your lower back. So you might feel a little stretch in your hamstring, but the emphasis on this one really is letting the lower back release. And we'll do 2 more breaths on this side. Good. And release the strap. Switch legs, putting the strap over your left foot. And again, if your leg is bent here, that's completely fine. And remember, we're just keeping the ankles over the hips. If it's a little bit farther back, or again, if it needs to be bent, that's fine. We're just not pulling it straight back. So hands about shoulder width apart, pulling straight down. So you're pulling that heel toward your left hip. And as you're doing that, you're allowing that lower back to release. And we'll take a few deep breaths here. Very good. And release. So we'll move into reclined pigeon pose, a nice pose for our hips. So we're going to cross the right ankle over the left thigh. You can stay right here, or you can interlace behind your left knee and bring that left thigh towards your chest, keeping your feet flexed and trying to pull the right knee away from you while you pull the left knee in. Try to keep your lower back glued to the floor. As we're slowing down here, you might allow your breath to become a little slower and a little deeper. And release, and we'll switch sides, crossing the left over the right. Again, you can stay here, or you can bring that right knee in towards your chest, keeping the feet flexed. Moving the left knee back away from you while you pull the right knee in closer to you. And release. Very good. And we'll move into one final pose today before we move into our resting pose. If you're pregnant, you can go ahead and begin to find your comfortable resting pose, maybe on your left side. But otherwise, we'll lift the knees and allow them to drop to the right, pressing the left shoulder to the ground. If you've got the block nearby and you want to put it underneath your right knee if it doesn't quite reach the ground, you're welcome to do that. You can also put your right hand on your left knee. Good. And bring both knees back up, and we'll switch, letting the knees fall to the left, allowing that right shoulder to be heavy. You can gently look over your right shoulder if that looks okay, or if it feels okay on your neck. We're always more concerned with how things feel in our body than how they look. Very good. And then bring your legs back up and we'll set up for our Shavasana rest. So you can have your heels wide and your knees together. This is a nice pose for your lower back. Or if you don't have any discomfort in your lower back, you can straighten both legs out about as wide as your mat. And either way, you can allow your hands, the palms of your hands, to turn toward the ceiling. Bring your shoulder blades together. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. Allow your body to be heavy and the ground beneath you to support you. And like we did at the beginning, we'll bring awareness to the breath. Just noticing each inhale and each exhale. And perhaps you would like to begin to lengthen your breath. Maybe counting at a rhythm that works for you. Maybe counting to 4 on the inhale and 4 on the exhale. Or since we're winding down, you might want to try lengthening the exhale. Maybe inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 6 or maybe even 8 counts. Just take a couple minutes here to breathe in any way that feels restful and good to you. And as you breathe, you might notice your mind begins to wander. That's completely natural. You can watch it to see where it wanders, or you can gently bring yourself back to your breath. Very nice. You can begin to bring awareness to your body, allowing your fingers and toes to move a little. Slowly allowing your eyes to open. If you're lying on your back, I encourage you to bring your knees in, roll over onto your left side, moving slowly. Use your hands to help you press up into a comfortable seated position. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this first Monday evening practice of the year. I'm looking forward to sharing these practices with you all year, and I thank you for taking time from your evening to join me. Have a wonderful night, and I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Bye.